Imagine a world where the race to the moon was powered by secrets, moral compromises, and the minds behind Nazi Germany's deadliest weapons. In the shadow of World War II, the U.S. launched a clandestine operation that would change history, not just by building rockets, but by rewriting the past of war criminals. This is the story of Operation Paperclip, a covert mission that brought over 1,600 German scientists to America, sparking breakthroughs and ethical firestorms that still echo today. World War II ends. The Cold War looms, and the U.S. and Soviet Union scramble to claim Germany's scientific talent. The V-2 rocket, a Nazi superweapon, was at stake. Today we'll uncover the purpose behind Paperclip, the secrecy that shielded it, the key figures like Werner von Braun who shaped its legacy, and the moral dilemmas that ask, can the ends ever justify the means? From rocket launches to hidden war crimes, this is a story of ambition, cover-ups, and the cost of progress. Well, hey guys, welcome to the second episode of Midday Madness with Manly Mark. As always, I'm your host, Manly Mark. I guess it's probably always going to be me, but just glad to be tuning in again. As my intro indicated, today we will be getting into the Operation Paperclip that I've been mentioning and talking about to Phil and to you guys, and I guess yesterday to Joe. But just to, before we just dive right into it, I don't want to, like I said, make this too much of a lecture podcast. Sometimes I want to just kind of chit-chat a little bit, talk about other things. And so one thing that I kind of saw that I think will kind of set the mood and kind of speaks to what I like to do on this podcast and kind of like what I like to do with when I'm speaking to friends, family, or other people. And this is from a guy on X that I follow named Donnie Discerned, at Donnie Darkened, though. Very, very good person to follow. If you have an X account, look up Donnie Darkened. He gets into the end time stuff a lot. He kind of cuts through the curtain like we're aiming to do here on the Feast Me Network. But this is what he says. You can't soften your heart on your own. Only the Holy Spirit can do that. But what you can do is submit to Him, listen, repent, and stop resisting. Hebrews 3:7-8 says, Today if you hear His voice, do not harden your hearts. Ezekiel 36:26 says, I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you. The posture God is looking for isn't perfection. It's humility, willingness to be led, corrected, and changed. And that's kind of the the aim that I go for is I'm not so set in stone that I can't entertain any correction or any wisdom that might come my way. And so I think there are things that are clearly set in stone, like, okay, well, Jesus Christ is Lord. I mean, that's never going to change. Never going to change my mind. But a lot of things that are tradition, a lot of things that are pushed by denominations as just fact or true or history, I'm always going to question. And I know me and Phil seem like we're always hating on denominations, but I'm part of a denominational church. I wouldn't have it any other way. I love my denomination, but the things that are present within it that I think are outdated or were influenced by things that aren't really actually reflected from the Bible or the Scripture, I'm going to question those things. And so, and that kind of leads into our topic of Operation Paperclip. In that, talking to Phil, he'd never heard of it, had no idea that most of our advances in rocketry and a lot of in manufacturing and metallurgy and medicine were literally because we brought 1,600 Nazi scientists over after World War II. And it's hard looking back because you say, well, who cares? It's in the name of progress. And if I can get through my notes in here in a little bit, we'll go through some of the key figures and kind of outline what their specific war crimes were in World War II. But for the sake of technology, it didn't matter. And that's kind of why it's called Operation Paperclip, is because they had to paperclip certain files that were problematic, right? They had to cover up or downplay some of the crimes of these Nazis. And, I'm not I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing that we used the talent that we had available as prisoners for the advancement of American war effort or medicine or space flight. But the way that they covered it up and the way that they talk about, it's almost like a curse word to call someone. I mean, it is a curse word to call someone a Nazi nowadays because the Nazis weren't good. They weren't good, but we sure didn't mind using their intelligence. And just like I was talking about earlier, most people have no idea that there are lots and lots of these things that go on under the surface, perpetuated by our own government, endorsed by our own government, that they use the narrative of, oh, the Nazis were evil, the Nazis were bad, kill every Nazi, Nuremberg trials. But we can actually harbor these criminals, post-war, let them live in America, benefit off of the American taxpayer dollar, just because we want their knowledge. Okay, so again, I'm not getting into whether it was morally right or wrong. It's just people at the time didn't know about it. But then again, in today's view, the whole narrative around World War II and the Nazis is the Holocaust. I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing because that was a major point of it, but in essentially summing up the entire thing by saying World War II equals Nazis equals Holocaust equals bad, the end, you sure miss out on a lot of things that our own government benefited on and then lied about because they don't want to. I don't know. They like to mislead the American public. They want to take a moral high ground. I don't know why. And once you really start noticing, just like with Operation Paperclip, you start to notice a pattern in that a lot of these operations and wars and things that America's been involved in and affiliated with, the story we get is some moral thing to make us empathetic. Like, oh no, weapons of mass destruction, Saddam Hussein. Oh no, we gotta get rid of him. We gotta get rid of him. Really, we just wanted the resources. We wanted the oil. We wanted to put in our own people. Granted, that led to like ISIS, I think, which is worse than Saddam Hussein. And I don't think they even found the weapons of mass destruction. But the point being, they just push these stories. For probably the whole history of America, just that. The story we get. Victory's always written by the victors, but. I'm just here to uncover history, uncover truth. I'm here to turn conspiracy to things that are well known. That's the point. So, I guess right before we get into that, I did want to kind of touch on something that's going on in the media right now that people called conspiracy for years, or it's a real life conspiracy. Like it involves this is Trump's impeachment attorney. David Schoen says what Obama and his deep state intel operatives did borders on treason, breaks down how they should be charged over their Russiagate conspiracy against President Trump. He's quoted saying, "There are many ways we could prosecute: civil rights violations, seditious conspiracy, and obstruction of justice and more." He says, "Never before have I seen in my career a history of top intelligence officials weighing in on political questions, signing on to documents. This is outrageous. Seditious conspiracy is someone who working actively to undermine the government in coordination with a foreign government. This goes way beyond this, undermining the results of an election that cannot be tolerated. This borders treason." Long story short, remember in Trump's first term, he just got, that was just annoying to just hear about it forever and ever. The Russiagate conspiracy that the Russians helped Donald Trump in the election. It went on forever and ever. I think they tried to impeach him over it. I can't remember. But it come to find out it was literally just Obama and his administration trying to undermine Trump. That's a real life thing we're seeing in real time unfold. So like how many of those things that we see, how many people bought into the Russiagate conspiracy, like, oh, he's a Russian asset, Trump's a Russian asset, evil, devil, only to come out it's like, oh, well, actually, no, his political opponents were setting him up because they're actually working with the Chinese governments and the other foreign powers to undermine the real American government. It's like, so it'll be interesting to see how that kind of stuff plays out. And so, yeah, I just want to kind of touch on a few of those current events for a second. And if there's anyone out there listening, just drop me a comment. If you want to chit-chat about anything, I don't mind going off topic. I do that kind of thing all the time. And we always love listening, hearing from our viewers, whether that's Keyboard Man, Jerry, Jessica, Peyton, Massimo Jangler, or the plethoras of others that email into the Feast Me show. I mean, it never, not the Feast Me show, but Not Now with Fee, it never surprises, it never made, what I'm trying to say is I'm always surprised at the quality of questions we get from our listeners, like on the Not Now with Fee. And I just, Fee's a crazy person willing to just answer any and every question that comes his way. But, hey, good info is good info. So you guys always tune in to the Night Night with Feast Me. I always try to tune in, but it never fails. I always catch the last 2 or 3 minutes because it's like I'll see 9 o'clock and think, oh, I got to watch. And the next thing I know, I'm distracted with my kids, cleaning up around the house. And next thing I know, like, oh, got to tune in. And he's saying, good night, everybody. So he always appreciates you dropping comments and sending in those questions. So, but let me get back into Operation Paperclip. And if I seem kind of scattered here, I'm just trying to go through my notes because I really want to get these dates and these points accurate. But we'll explain the purpose first. The purpose of Operation Paperclip, and the operation went from 1945 to 1959, was a U.S. intelligence program to recruit German scientists, engineers, and technicians to gain a Cold War edge over the Soviet Union and prevent Germany's rearmament. Okay, just on the surface you think, oh, that's not bad, because the Germans, I think, ended up with 2,200 Nazi scientists and technicians and engineers. So, I guess looking at it from that, like a major power in a world war loses, and they have all this technology, all these resources, and, on the surface you think, okay, let's go get them. The value, let's talk about the value, contributed $10 billion in patents and processes, notably to NASA's Apollo program. And so that's a whole lot of money contributed, it sounds like, from the taxpayers into this program, funding former war criminals. Ooh, interesting. Again, I'm not here to say, is it moral, is it not? I want to leave that up to you. And they wanted to secure the expertise in rocketry, aviation, and chemical biological weapons. Apparently the Nazis, they just had the top scientists in all of those things, which is interesting because it's like if they had the top of all this technology, how did they lose the war? I've always wondered that. Maybe just foolish leadership mistakes. And the U.S. feared Soviets would claim German talent. They had their own Operation Osava. Oh, it's a word I can't even pronounce. In October 1946, they relocated 2,200 scientists. Their initial focus, support the war against Japan, later shifted to space and military tech. Okay, now I'm going to get specifically into the dates. July 19th, 1945, Operation Overcast. It was originally called Overcast begins, targeting rocket scientists. Okay, November 45, renamed Operation Paperclips. Paperclips marked files of scientists with problematic backgrounds. September 3rd, 1946, Truman approves allowing up to 1,000 scientists under temporary military custody. The first question a lot of people want to ask at that point is, why the U.S. prioritized science over justice? We hear the stories from history, where we read history about the Nuremberg trials, how he put to trial and hung all these people affiliated with the Nazi Party, the propagandists, the guards, the soldiers, the officers, all these people. But then come to find out, we actually slipped in thousands of the same criminals in the name of science, right? So justice or science, you can have one or the other in this situation, but we clearly picked science. But again, was it a worthy sacrifice? Well, That's up to you that's up to you to decide. Well, and we'll now get into the secrecy of the operation. It was run by the Joint Intelligence Objectives Agency with OSS and Army Counterintelligence Corps, the CIC. They falsified biographies, Nazi party memberships, SS, SA affiliations scrubbed from records. Processing through Fort Strong, Massachusetts. And it was pretty quick. In December 1946, media leaks exposed the program, promoting public backlash. Military response portrayed scientists as good Germans to downplay Nazi ties. Protests from Albert Einstein, Eleanor Roosevelt, and others against employing ex-Nazis. And so pretty well right off the bat, you had it leaked to the media, and there was a lot of backlash. I didn't even realize that Albert Einstein had a problem with it, but why wouldn't he? He's Jewish. So it's just interesting that the American government portrays the air of moral supremacy around the world, but they're willing to undermine the morality just for an advancement, in technology or science. And I really want to get into now some of the key figures, because a lot of these key figures in this, just like for example, I'm going to do a whole episode of Wernher von Braun. Wernher von Braun was tied into Walt Disney. He had a relationship with Walt Disney. I will get into that, and it's kind of like weird, all these different crossovers. He wrote a book. I can't remember if it was in the 40s or 50s or 60s. He wrote a book about colonizing Mars, and at some point I'm going to have it here up on the screen for you to see, just an actual screenshot of the book. But in the book, the Martian leader is called Elon. Okay, it's like, what? It's weird. So you're telling me if Wernher von Braun wrote a book, a fictional book, about a Mars colony where the leader's called Elon, and now in our own present time, we have a guy named Elon Musk whose main goal and mission is to colonize Mars. Is it a coincidence, or is there something deeper going on with Elon Musk? I don't know. Because, I think Elon's a cool guy, but do I trust him to put a brain chip in my head? No. Do I trust him to connect me to the what I would describe as literally a satanic hive mind with the AI brain chips? I don't know, man. Not going to happen to me unless they forcibly do it. But we're going to find out. But there's just a lot of weird connection points. I mean, I'll intend to show you a picture of Wernher von Braun on the JFK. He was a top guy at NASA. And, I'll tell you about these things, and we'll also get into his crimes, because these are a lot of things that, like I said, our own government downplayed their affiliations, downplayed their crimes, downplayed their importance within the Nazi Party. And so Wernher von Braun, first off, former SS officer, he developed the V-2 rocket using slave labor from Buchenwald and a word I can't pronounce. So it sounds like right off the bat, this Wernher von Braun, a big wig in the NASA, a big wig in, literally helped us get to the moon, used slave labor to help build Nazi rockets. He was like the top guy for designing these Nazi rockets used in the war effort against the Allies. But he was a key asset to America. He surrendered to U.S. in May 1945, became NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center director. Oh, sounds like a pretty cushy job for a former war criminal. Key to Saturn V rocket in 1969 moon landing. Oh, Disney collaborator, 1955 to 1957 TV specials. Father of space medicine, linked to Nazi human experiments. Excuse me, after the Disney. I skipped down my notes, can't really see. Warren was a Disney collaborator. Okay, now this is another guy. Hubertus Stronghold, father of space medicine, linked to Nazi human experiments, worked for U.S. Air Force, award named after him until 2013 exposure. Okay, so it sounds like there was this guy who he was tied to human experiments during Nazi Germany, who we brought over here, worked for the Air Force, was such an asset and influence that he had an award named after him until people caught on in 2013. That wasn't that long ago. Isn't that insane? Isn't that insane? And that issue's not like people want to say that. Oh, we have monuments and towns and colleges and mascots named after like Civil War generals and stuff like that. I think this is completely different. You know, we had an award after a war criminal. So it's just crazy to me. Walter Schreiber, Third Reich's Surgeon General. It's pretty high up there, I'd think. Involved in biological weapons and camp experiments. Okay. Employed at Texas military facility before defecting from Soviet custody. Oh. So he was employed at Texas military facility before defecting from Soviet custody. Oh, sounds like a good guy to me. Otto Ambros, chemist convicted at Nuremberg for chemical weapons and slave labor. Later worked for U.S. authorities. Okay, so that guy was actually convicted at Nuremberg, but whereas a lot of them got the rope, that guy was too valuable. We could use him to help us kill other people. So, Arthur Rudolph, rocket scientist tied to Mitstelaba Dora. NASA executive until 1984. OSI investigation. Listen, he renounced U.S. citizenship to avoid prosecution. So you're telling me this guy, rocket scientist Arthur Rudolph, was a NASA executive until 1984. That's not even that long ago. So as you can see, it's well, there's definitely an ethical disconnect. Scientists' contributions versus their war crimes. Why did the U.S. overlook Nazi affiliations for strategic gain? These scientists built rockets and dreams, but at what cost? Let's dive. Well, we already dived into the moral dilemma, but it's just interesting to me again that most people don't know that our own government would do something so morally compromised in the name of it gain. Now, you might not be surprised in the wake of, say, COVID. You know, like they as much as these vaccine mandates came at us, and as quick as they made the vaccine, right, and all the COVID restrictions, it's like, well, they don't really have our best interest at heart, right? Like they closed a lot of the mom and pop shops, but Walmart and large corporations like that got to stay open. How many churches closed because of that? Well, it was in the name of public safety and public health, but in a sense, I think they wanted to do a death blow to key assets in America, like mom and pop shops and churches. How many churches never recovered? How many churches never came back? And so, I mean, they don't have your best interests at heart. And I mean, let's just skip around these notes, just because I want to make sure I'm not missing anything important. I mean, as far as legacy, if it wasn't for, I guess, Werner von Braun and the Nazis we brought over, we wouldn't have made it to the moon. We wouldn't have won the space race. We wouldn't have won the Cold War, I guess, if we did win the Cold War. And so, looking back at it, maybe it was a good thing, but maybe it wasn't. It's really hard to decide. But regardless, we're going to keep doing these kinds of things, and we're going to keep uncovering these kinds of things as time goes on. I mean, just some examples that come to mind that we'll get into eventually too is it's like the American government funded the Taliban in the 80s, right, 70s and 80s or something, because they were at war against the Soviets in Afghanistan or somewhere. And even, I'm pretty sure if I can remember, I'll show you the scene. It's like at the end of Rambo 1 or something, or Rambo 2, or one of the Rambo movies. It says, this movie is dedicated to the proud Mujahideen warriors of Afghanistan or something. And it's like, well, those guys later turn around and are the Taliban that we have to go to war against in the 2000s. And so it's like we continue to prop up these guys, these leaders, prop up these groups, and then later they cause us so much problems that we have to go in and take them out. It's just, once you notice the pattern, you won't unsee it. And it's just a long line of control for their own gain, whether that's weapons manufacturers' gains, the politician gains, just the sake of pure Luciferian chaos. I don't know. I'm not sure. But they don't care about you. And so this is just kind of another example of something, kind of topics we'll get into on the Midday Madness with Manly Mark. And as time goes on and I get more comfortable with digesting information at a faster rate, I'll get more fluid and more comfortable just spouting on for 30 minutes to an hour about a specific topic. And I'll be able to get deeper in a much quicker time as I get more comfortable with this. So if anything, I hope I just piqued your interest in this topic because it runs deep. And I'll probably follow up on tomorrow's episode with diving into Wernher von Braun and his contributions to America and just some weird things surrounding his legacy. Like I said, his book, even what his final warning on his deathbed. And the fact he worked for Disney. I don't want to give too much away, but the point was with Disney was he was frustrated that the Americans wouldn't give more money to these space programs. So he started working with Disney to produce animations and presentations and films and such and TV programs to to get the public support for space up, to increase public support for space and space travel and things like that, to kind of push the government to put more funding into it. But then you ask, well, for what purpose? Why was Wernher von Braun, a former Nazi officer, so invested in space, or so invested in the general public being wanting to invest in the space race? So we'll get into things like that, and even his final warning incorporates topics like climate change, possible asteroid, and even an alien invasion. So very, very interesting. And once I get figured out how to pull things up here, I'll show you the receipts. I'll show you the quotes. I'll even showing you some videos. But for something that's so broad and the implications aren't that deep in the sense of, you really can't blame the American government for wanting the technology, wanting the advancements that the Nazi intelligence could provide. And you can see an observable difference that it made on society and technology and advancements in medicine, aviation, rocketry, things like that. But it's just interesting, again, to see how much deeper it can go with the key figures involved. And we'll get into Disney at some point. We'll get into, all I'll say is the rabbit trails run deep on a lot of these key figures. And if you keep tuning in to Midday Madness with Manly Mark, we'll get into them all, and we'll get into them in a lot more detail. We'll have a little more fun. Today was maybe a little lecture-y, but once we get some folks tuning in and commenting, we'll just be having a good time. So, again, if there's anyone out there listening, and there's anything you want me to dive into or anything you want me to really take a deep dive into, just let me know, and I'll have a good time researching it. I love it. It's probably a fault of mine, but I could spend all day just researching and diving into rabbit hole after rabbit hole about topic, or looking at video and article after article, just to, I just like knowing every side of every coin, just to pull out of my hat if I need to. I mean, on one hand, it makes me really indecisive because on one day I might, I do think the Earth's flat. The next day I might be thinking, no, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Again, just an example, I don't think the Earth's flat. But digest a lot of information at your own risk. And anyways, guys, it's been a good show, and tune in tomorrow for another exciting show of Midday Madness with Manly Mark. Tune in tonight to Night with Fee. I'm sure there's a good relationship topic he's going to get into tonight because he's always getting these questions. So, guys, thank you again for tuning in. God bless you, and as always, I've had a good time. Talk to you, I guess, tomorrow at 9 o'clock. See you then.